Good morning, students. Today we are going to do a new chapter, our constitution. Previously, I have sent you just the notes. So today we are going to do the explanation of this chapter. What is the constitution? As you bring a diary to the school diary, it contains the rules and regulations of the school diary. Your diary is not meant to write your homework or a complaint. A diary gives you complete knowledge, information about the rules and regulations to be followed in the school. In the same way, our constitution is the rules and regulations of our country. A constitution is a comprehensive legal document that shows the basic laws to govern the country. It takes all possible precautions to safeguard the rights of the citizens. India was always ruled by kings. India was divided into small, small kingdoms. It is the Britishers who united the whole of India under one country, and we got the name of our country. Otherwise, we knew each other only due to our kingdoms. So when the Britishers were ruling over India, they followed their own rules and regulations, and they utilized India for their own benefit. But what happened when India got its independence? We wanted to make our rules and regulations of our country. We did not have any idea how to make the rules and regulations. So we borrowed constitution of 5 countries, that is Ireland, America, Britain, France and Germany. We borrowed them and we copied all the good points of these constitutions. Then we added our rules and regulations, like because India has 5 physical divisions, different religion, different custom, different culture of India, and every people wanted the benefit for their own community. So rules were added as a country as a whole, not as a community. But it was seen that no community was deprived of their right. The Constitution of India was made by the Constituent Assembly, which was set up in 1946 before India was divided into India and Pakistan. When in this Constituent Assembly was framed, at that time it was framed to be one constitution for India and Pakistan both, though there was 389 members. But in 1947, when India got divided into India and Pakistan, then 309 members were there to frame the Constitution of India, and 89 or 88 members were there to frame the Constitution of Pakistan. So it took about 2 years, 11 months and 18 days or 17 days to frame the Constitution of India. So, but the Constitution of India was completely made on 26 November 1949, but it came into force on 26 January 1950. Now there is a reason behind it. When the Constitution was already made on 26 January, then from 1st January it would have come into force, but it is not so. The reason we'll be knowing in the future explanation. Now, what is the importance of constitution? It regulates the powers of the 3 organs of our government, that is legislative, executive and judiciary. Our government works in 3 departments. Legislative makes laws, executive executes the law, and judiciary judge the law. The Constitution Assembly made the Constitution of India. It is known as the Constitution Assembly in India because it consisted people from different physical divisions of India, people belonging from different religions, caste, creed, community, etc., and important leaders who fought for the freedom of our country. So our Constituent Assembly was because it included people of different religion, different caste, different culture, from people from mountain region, people from valley region, people from hills, plain region, people from plateau region, people living near the sea coast. Each and every community people was included, so that no rules can deprive anybody of their right. Everybody will benefit from the country, because for the independence of our country, many people have sacrificed their life. And leaders were also included because they led the freedom of our country. So they can, with their experience, they can help to make a better rule and regulation for our country. Then afterwards, the constitution was made of points were laid down. Then a drafting committee was formed, and the first president, that is temporary president of the drafting committee, was Sachidananda Sinha. But after 2 days, that is, he was elected on 9th December, but on 11th December, a new president was elected, that is Dr. Rajendra Prasad. So if the question comes, interim president, Dr. Sachidananda Sinha, permanent president, Dr. Rajendra Prasad. But the chairman of the drafting committee was Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who drafted the constitution, means codified the constitution, rule 1, rule 2, and what rule can be under which rule and act. That is why the making of our constitution goes in the hands of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Significance of, now before this slide explanation, I told you about 26 January. So now, why did the constitution came into effect on 26 January? In the Congress session of 1929, it was declared to celebrate Purna Swaraj Day on 26 January 1930. From that day onward, 26 January was celebrated as Independence Day. But when India got its independence on 15th August 1947, 26 January lost its importance. So to give importance to the historical date, the constitution came into force on 26 January 1950 and the first president of India was elected. Thus, the 26 January is celebrated as Republic Day. So who was the first president of our country? Dr. Rajendra Prasad, who was elected on 26 January 1950. So before 1950, India was only a democratic country. It became republic only after 26 January 1950. So now you have understood why constitution came into force on 26 January, because 15th August when we got our independence. So now independence day shifted from 26 January to 15th August. So 26 January lost its importance. So to give importance to the 26 January, our constitution came into force on 26 January. What is the important features of our constitution? The most important features of our constitution is single citizenship. Our constitution provides single citizenship despite the federal structure. Federal structure means our country is divided into two parts, central government and state government. Our country, India as a whole, but it has been divided into 28 states and 9 union territories. But still we are not known by our states, we are known by our country. We don't say ourselves that we are Jharkhandi, we are Gujarati, we say, but when we fill up a form or when we are considered as a one, we are considered as a single citizenship. That is why we can move from one place to another, nobody can stop us. Citizenship is common to all the people of various states and territories. Suppose if any person from Gujarat and a person from Jharkhand meet outside India, do they say that we are Jharkhandi or Gujarati? No, they say that we are Indians. So this proves that we are united under one head, that is Indian. All the citizens of the country enjoy same political and civil rights, and no discrimination is made on the basis of state or province. Whichever state, whichever district, whichever place they live, doesn't matter. They have all the right which a citizen of a country should have. Next is universal adult franchise. This name is very big, but the meaning is very small. Means when you will be 18 years of age, you will get the right to vote to elect a leader. This is called universal adult franchise. So it means that all Indians who have attained the age of 18 or above have the right to vote. There is no discrimination on the grounds of caste, color, religion, gender, etc. Means you will not be deprived of voting due to your religion, due to your caste, due to your gender. Each and every person of India who has attained the age of 18 has the right to vote. In India, we have joint electorates. Joint electorates means we all get together and elect our leaders. We don't say that Muslims will elect their leaders, Hindu will elect their leaders, Sikh will elect their leaders. No. When a leader contests an election, all the Indians get together and elect their leaders. It means that all citizens vote as Indians but not belonging to a separate community. It fulfills the meaning of democracy. Democracy means by the people, of the people, for the people. So we all people get together and elect our government to rule over us and to make a country a successful country. Fundamental rights. It is incorporated in Part 3 of the Indian Constitution. These rights are for individuals all-round development. They are justiciable by rights. They are not absolute, as during emergency, fundamental rights remain suspended. Now, what are fundamental rights? When India got its independence, they thought that every citizen of our country should get their fundamental rights. So that is why it is included in our constitution. These rights are for individuals, means we have the right to take any kind of education, we have the right to do any kind of business, any kind of service, we have the right to participate in any kind of organization. Nobody can deprive of us. So for our development, we have got, today you want to study science, you can study science, you want to study commerce, you can study commerce, you don't want to study, don't study, means that individual freedom has been given. They are justiciable. If anybody will not get their fundamental right, they can go to the High Court or the Supreme Court for their fundamental right. Suppose a girl who is not good in studies, the mother forcefully wants to get married and she wants to study, so she can go to the court and complain that my fundamental right has been deprived. They are not absolute, as during emergency, fundamental rights remain suspended. See, so fundamental right during emergency, we have to think for our country, not for our individual rights. At that time, fundamental rights remain. Suppose if India and Pakistan go for a war, during that period you will not get your fundamental rights. Suppose you have the right to go to school, but due to lockdown you are deprived of going to school. At this time, if you go to the court for your fundamental right, you will not get your fundamental right, because this is an emergency epidemic time period during which the country is going through lockdown. So you will not have your fundamental right of gaining education. Next is, there are 7 fundamental rights guaranteed to the citizens of India. First is right to equality, right to freedom, right against exploitations, right to constitutional remedies, cultural and educational rights, right to religion, and right to education. Now, right is right to equality. Right to equality means all people are treated equally. Right to freedom means you have the freedom to develop, but you don't have the freedom to harm anybody. Right against exploitation means if somebody locks you inside the house, somebody force you to do the work which you don't want to do, these are called right against exploitation. You might be seeing small children being forced to work in restaurant, hotel. At that time they go to the court, then child labor comes in right against exploitation. If some girl is being tortured in the house for bringing dowry, that is also again exploitation. Right to constitutional remedies means any changes made in the constitution, people have the right to follow that new constitution. Cultural and educational right, we have cultural and educational right, like you can study in any vernacular languages, you can study in any stream, you can do polytechnic, you can do vocational course, you can do degree, you can do doctorate, you can do anything, nobody will deprived. Next is cultural right, you have the right to celebrate your religion festival, like we celebrate fairs during Durga Puja, we take out processions during Guru Parab, all these have got right. But now the country is going through a lockdown period, that is emergency period, so you are not told to go to the temple, you are not told to celebrate your function. So your fundamental rights remain suspended. Right to religion, you have the freedom to follow any religion. If you are a Hindu, you want to become Muslim, you can become. If you want to become a Christian, you can become. You want to become a Parsi, you can become. Nobody can stop you. Next is right to education, means this is a right which is given, which was included in our fundamental rights, so that in India all of them become illiterate. But there are certain laws which are making this right very wrong. For example, a child who cannot read standard 1 book is promoted to standard 2. Till standard 8 you get promotion, but standard 8 if you fail and you go to the government that 9 I'm not getting promotion, the government will not help you out. Right to education means to gain education. Right to education, it does not mean that you will be deprived of education. Suppose today, if due to right of education you are getting promotion, tomorrow if the government is throwing you out, what will you do? You will not, neither you will get a degree, neither. Now the government will not help you out. So is this right wrong? Right? Is this right should be there in the fundamental right? I think so. There should be made certain changes, because until unless you gain education, the country will never improve. Next is right to freedom. This is very important. The Constitution guarantees 6 basic freedom to its citizens. Freedom of speech and expression. You have the freedom to say, you have the freedom to express, but you don't have the freedom to abuse other people. You don't have the freedom to insult others. So there is certain changes which you have to follow. Freedom to assemble peacefully without, you can do picnic, you can do meetings, you can do kirtans, you can do religious functions, but you can't get together and think of killing others or doing any kind of activities which will break the peace of our country. Freedom to form association, you can form association and union for your benefit and for improvement of the country, but any association forms which is against the country, that the country will not tolerate and you will be put behind the bars. Freedom to move freely throughout the country, you can move, but suppose you want to go to the border Tibet now or border of China now, you can't go. Whenever there is peace, for the peace and for the protection of the country, you cannot go, but anytime otherwise you can travel to any part of India, nobody will stop you. You have the right to reside in any part of India. That is why people from Bihar have settled in Jharkhand, people from Gujarat have settled in people from Gujarat have settled in Assam. These are the reasons why we have the freedom to settle in any part of our country. Today you can buy a land in Kashmir also, nobody can stop you. Freedom to practice and profess any trade and business. So you have the freedom to do any kind. If you want to drive an auto, you can drive. You want to become a driver, you can become. You want to become a businessman, you can become. You want to become a teacher, you can become. You want to become a IAS officer, you can become. Nobody can stop you. Next, protection of fundamental rights. Suppose anyone is deprived of their, suppose you go to a college to take admission in science and you have marks also, percentage criteria, but then also they say that you are a Hindu, you will not get admission. At that time, you can go to the court and the court will issue writs. Writs are the orders issued by the High Court and Supreme Court for the enforcement of fundamental right. That is, there are 6 fundamental writs, that is habeas corpus, mandamus, quo warranto, and many other. But you just have to write what are writs. Writs are orders issued by the High Court and Supreme Court for the enforcement of fundamental right. Like suppose due to RTE, you are not getting promotion from 5 to 6, then you can go to the court, and though you fail, you don't know to read and write, but then also you will get promotion to standard 6. Next is fundamental duties. When our constitution was made, fundamental rights were incorporated, but people were misusing this fundamental rights and they were not doing their duties. So in 42nd Amendment Act, that is 1976, fundamental duties were added in our constitution. These duties are added by the 42nd Amendment Act. Now what is amendment? Amendment means changes made in the constitution. These duties were added to increase our moral and national responsibilities. When we are getting our right, it is not our responsibility to uplift our country. Should we disrespect our country? You have the right to speak. It means you can speak anything. No, you can't deprive. You cannot insult your country. They are not enforced by law. Though this is not enforced by law, but we are supposed to follow it. There are 11 fundamental duties in all: respecting our national flag and emblem, protecting our public property, and others. So the government has given 7 fundamental duties, that you should respect your national flag, you should respect your national song. That is why whenever Jana Gana Mana is sang, wherever we are, we should stand up. We should protect the public property like post office, schools, colleges. You go and destroy, you open the nut and say teacher to diya, but this is not that. Who told? The school never gives you an old bench. The school repairs. It is you break it. In the same way, when you go to a post office, you go to a bank, you spit on the wall. Why? That is a public property. It is not you. But next time when you will come to use that public property, you will yourself will dirty. Who dirtied it? Nobody else. We dirtied it and we blame the government. So there are 11 fundamental rights mentioned in your book. Please read it. Now the first and the second chapter of civics is over. Go through the book, write the question answer. Thank you, children. I hope all of you have understood.